Angie Viscianen, and I am the founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a mentoring program that connects prospective law students to lawyers for mentoring so they can learn a little bit more about the legal profession before they decide whether or not to dive right in. And we started doing these Zoom meetups at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic to allow current lawyers, pre-law students, current law students to all connect with each other and start to get to know each other, because I was meeting a bunch of really cool people on LinkedIn and I wanted all of us to be able to hang out together and meet each other. So we started doing these meetups where we bring in lawyers to talk about their experiences and chat about different topics that might help you in your legal career. So I'm super excited to introduce to you today Navneet Mann, and she is a coach and lawyer full-time, and she helps lawyers learn a little bit more about success and how to define their own versions of success and how to make sure that they are chasing their own dreams. So Navneet, I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Angie, and thank you everyone for being here. I am so excited. Like Angie shared, this is what I do full time, so I'm still a practicing lawyer. I have been practicing for, I think I just hit my 5-year mark, so it's been a little while. And through my journey, I have experienced all sorts of things, good and bad in this profession. And what that led me to was essentially creating a coaching practice to help other lawyers kind of navigate some of the hardships that come with this career, some of the stresses, and just for them to know that they're not alone when they do experience the difficult parts of law. So in my capacity as a coach, I work with high achievers, lawyers, executives, other professionals that have gone the extra mile to go and achieve something in their career, only to find themselves feeling slightly unsatisfied, underwhelmed, or overwhelmed with all of the work. So Angie invited me here today to talk to everybody about my experiences in law and also share some takeaways and main things that I have learned being in this career, and also working with lawyers in my coaching capacity. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background about my experience. Like I said, I've been practicing for about 5 years now. I had anything but a straight line in this journey. I started off actually in marketing and advertising and moved through all sorts of career development hoops, and ended up doing some business advising for a large banking institution when I realized that what I really liked to do was to help other people. And because I like serving on that level, I decided to go to law school. Originally, I went to law school thinking I was going to change the world, and I was going to, work for the UN and be this humanitarian and do all of these amazing things. And I quickly, after graduating law school and working in the field, realized how bureaucratic it was, how it was mostly about the bottom line, and how I was trading in hours for dollars, and it was really just about making money for the firm, making money for myself, and the hustle just became a part of my identity. And it wasn't long before I left that firm, moved to a different firm, and started bouncing around looking for the perfect fit, looking for what was right for me, and finding myself kind of bumping into a wall each time I did that. There was always some sort of disconnect. Sounds like somebody might have their mic on. There's a little bit of ruffling. But anyways, there was a little bit of a disconnect between what I was doing and the firms that I was with. So going through these motions, I at the time didn't see it, and I'll go over some of the lessons that I learned, but at the time I didn't see what the disconnect was, and the fact that I was myself disconnected with the type of work I was doing because I wasn't honoring who I was and what mattered to me. So going through the motions, I just kept looking for the right fit. I would bounce from this firm to that firm, this area of practice to that area of practice. Mostly I've done litigation and in different capacities. So eventually I burnt out. I hit a massive wall. I started to feel lots of medical issues, heart palpitations, anxiety attacks. I was waking up with anxiety every day. I was being irritable to my loved ones, my partner. I was not working out, not taking care of myself, and just turned into a person that I no longer liked or recognized. And that was 3 years ago almost. And that was my kind of turning point in my life when I realized that this isn't sustainable for me. And if I want to continue to practice law, I have to find a better way to balance all of these things and find more happiness and fulfillment. So that's when I got into coaching, and I learned that there was this whole other world out there that was really helping people progress and define their own ideas of success and their own goals according to their values, which is not something I ever thought of before. I went through life thinking I knew myself quite well, I knew my values quite well, and I was aligned with that. It never really occurred to me to think beyond that. And I think a lot of lawyers and high achievers are in that same realm. We don't necessarily question our path, we just kind of go full-fledged on that path to success, because we think at the end of that tunnel is this high status career, lots of money, you get to afford everything you've ever wanted in life, and of course you'll be happy, because how could you not be, right, with all of that stuff. It's only when you get there, and if there is a disconnect, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, which it did for me. So coaching allowed me first to heal myself, to learn that there is so many different beautiful parts of life that I wanted to incorporate, and also that I can help other people do the same. So one of the things that became most evident to me over the years was the idea of self-discovery. Like I said, we all go through life thinking we know ourselves so well and we have it all together. That's kind of how our society is formed, is, from kindergarten, the age of 5, you are already being programmed and conditioned to develop all of these skills. By the age of 17 in high school, you are supposed to know what you want to do with the rest of your life and have a clear path, and follow that path through college and university, all priming you to become this professional and eventually take care of yourself and be independent. In my opinion, that system is quite broken, because we are not always encouraged to explore who we are beyond what the system already has planned for us. So we follow this yellow brick road, and then it leads us to a place which may no longer serve us, because maybe the decisions I made when I was 17 years old to go and prime myself for law no longer serve me, or maybe I was a different person back then. So it's really, really important at any stage, whether you are junior, senior, at any level, is to start exploring who you are and what matters to you, and open your eyes to all of that. Because once you start opening your eyes to who you are, that's where you start shedding some of the fear, the limitations that you have imposed on yourself, and you start understanding what's beneath the fear and why you might be holding yourself back from certain things. So a lot of my clients come to me and they have this really big fear of failure. They feel, if I've already started this path, I am so afraid to make a change because I'll look like a failure. I'll look like I never was meant to do law, and I will not get the respect from my colleagues. In fact, people will look at me like I couldn't make it. I wasn't cut out for it. And that was a big fear I had for a long time too, especially when I was introducing my coaching practice, because I looked like somebody that just wasn't meant for law. In fact, I had a colleague tell me that, like, Nav, I always knew you weren't really going to do this because you're not really cut out for it. Because there's this perception that you need to be really hard around the edges, and you need to be a little bit of a firecracker to be cut out for law, which is complete BS. You can definitely create your own path in this field in any way that you want. So the self-discovery really helped me learn that about myself, but leaning into fear was, I think, the most profound thing that I had done. So when I was feeling insecure about things, when I was really, really afraid for the next step, afraid to ask questions and things like that, I leaned into that and I explored what that really meant and what I was really afraid of. And oftentimes our fears do stem from fear of failure or fear of judgment and being rejected by other people. So most of your fears will fall in one of those two buckets. And if you're able to start recognizing that and breaking it down and understanding that there's really nothing to be afraid of, that's when the most growth happens. That's when you can break through some of your own limitations and things holding you back in your, mostly in your mind. And that's something that I did. Instead of running away from the fear and shutting down and not letting myself grow, I started leaning into it. I started exploring it more. I started doing things I was more afraid of. And that's also what I encourage my clients to do. And it has quite profound effects, because you're reaching the next level in your own success and your own growth. So in this profession, for me, stress had kind of become a regular part of life. You almost start associating stress with success, and you think that if I'm not really stressed out, that I'm not working hard enough, and there's still a little bit more capacity, a little bit more gas left in the tank that I should really just go full blown with. And that's not the case. It's not that you need to burn yourself into the ground in order to be successful. You can very much have balance, and if you start identifying things in your life that are important to you, things like most people will tell me their family, they don't get to come home and spend time with their family, or their kids are already asleep by the time they get home from work, or they're coming home just to have a quick dinner and then jumping back on their laptops to do more work. This, I'll go into the lessons that I learned, but it touches on this quite a bit, is that this profession will be as busy as you make it. And you'll always have pressures from other people that you should be doing more. And as a high achieving person that's brought you into this profession, you probably have that pressure on yourself anyways, that it's never enough, that you should always be doing more, 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 more. And this is where I encourage you to protect your energy a little bit and really prioritize who you are and what matters, and do things to give yourself a little bit of um, a breather, a little bit of space. This week, I posted something on Sunday that talked about using Sundays as self-care instead of stressing about your entire week, using one day to prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, however you need to be set up for the week in a way where you're grounded, instead of worrying about what is to come, because your week will be as busy as you make it when it comes to this profession. So what I did was I really just understood what I wanted my life to look like in the long term. And I know I wanted more mental space. I know I wanted to focus on my fitness and my health and my relationships. But I also wanted to make money. Like, I was in this profession because I knew that I was going to have a lot of success and status. And that a part of that is serving other people, but a part of it is also having a nice life for myself and paying off my 6 figures of student loan debt. So you want to be able to balance all of those things. So it comes from learning who you are and prioritizing the few things that matter to you. You can't just only have work and money, because then you won't have fulfillment. You won't have relationships. And you can't just have, fulfillment and not necessarily do something that's going to make you money, because then you're going to start resenting that work because it's not paying for your bills. So I'm going to dive into some of the things that was a quick overview of my life and some of the work I do, but I'll dive into some of the things that I learned and 3 key lessons that I think can be applied to you at any stage of your journey, but also as you grow, you can be going back, asking yourself these questions and just applying them in every single level. So as a student, as a junior, or as a senior, just come back to these 3 things. One of the things, the very first thing, is the importance of slowing down. You are programmed to think that you have to hustle, 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 hustle. We are in this culture where we think work hard, play hard is, that is how you're supposed to live your life. We think that everything needs to be really busy all the time. One of the first things we say when somebody asks how we're doing is, "Oh, I've been so busy." And it's really sad, because you're programming your mind to think that there's never enough time, that you always need to be hustling, that you always need to keep this pressure and stress on yourself. And it actually creates an adverse effect on your body, on your mind, on your health. In fact, if you are reframing those thoughts and saying that there's an abundance of time, there is so much time to do all of the things that you need to get done, you're reprogramming your mind to believe that you'll always get it done. You're never going to run out of time. So it's such a simple reframe, but I invite you to start implementing that into your life and really catch yourself if you are describing your days as being really busy, or your life as being really, really busy. You're either saying that I have too much on my plate that I can't get done, which means that maybe it's time to start offloading things, or it means that you are not prioritizing things that actually need doing. So that kind of takes me to my second point, but I'll finish the first one, is the importance of slowing down. So this will have such profound effects on you. We live in this world now where we are getting more into spirituality, and meditation and yoga are becoming a lot more mainstream. And if you don't already do something to slow your mind down, one of the things I always recommend is meditation. It's something that's hard for people that have an overactive mind. And for me, it was too. I never used to know how I can slow down and meditate and what that even meant and what I'm supposed to be thinking about. I was overthinking the meditation, which is the opposite of what you should be doing. So let go of some of that control that you feel in your life. Let go of the need to have everything sorted out before you do it and having all the answers, and start to invite a few minutes of quietness and slowing your brain down. If you are not an avid meditator, I would suggest using apps like Headspace or Calm, or even YouTubing some guided meditations, which I've done in the past as well. And if you can make it a practice 5 minutes a day, any time of your day, to slow your mind down, it will have such amazing lasting effects. It helps you think more clearly. It helps you create more space. It helps you get more creative with your work. Oftentimes, if I'm feeling stuck on a project, I'll just close my eyes for 5 minutes. I'll let myself breathe, and the answers will come to you, because it's usually you're overthinking, and that's why you can't process. So I invite you to do that. For some people, journaling really works. So prompt yourself with a question. What is it that is the most important thing for me right now in my life, and journal about it. What are the things that I can let go of right now? Journal about that. And just giving yourself a little bit of space, 5 minutes for yourself every day, will have a residual effect on the rest of your life. The second lesson that I just touched on was that there's always going to be too much to do. So, life will be as busy as you want it to be. You can start focusing on all of the things that you don't have time for, or you can start prioritizing the things that you do have time for. So we have this idea that, with more status, more success comes more money, right? But it also comes with more responsibilities. It also comes with more stress. It comes with so many different things. And we're always chasing the promotions and adding more onto our plate. But I invite you to think about what you can take off of your plate and be really, really realistic. How many of your tasks that you do on a daily basis are tasks only you can get done? How many of those tasks are tasks that are, propelling you forward, moving the needle forward for you? Or how many of them are just make busy tasks, things that are just keeping you stuck? How often do you find yourself scrolling through social media mindlessly? And if that's you, because that can be me, I've put the timer on my phone, so it tells me how often I'm on social media and what I'm scrolling through, because that, I realized, was a time wasting task that I was doing every single day. In fact, I was more committed to that than I was to my business growth, than I was to my work. Oftentimes, when I looked at the breakdown every week, how much I was actually on my phone. So I invite you to think about the places where your time is leaking for you. And instead of saying you don't have enough, start bringing some of that time back into your life, because we only have two commodities in life. We have money and we have time. Money you can make again, but time you cannot get again. So it is so valuable, and it's so important that you start understanding where your time is going and start organizing your days in the best way possible. So look at all of the things that you no longer have energy for, and try to delegate them or try to remove them off of your to-do list, and try to get less busy, try to get more efficient. So for me, a morning ritual or morning routine really helps. I know every morning I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got my skincare routine, I do yoga, I meditate, I sit down with my coffee, and that's after that my day starts. So that kind of incorporates the first two things. I've offloaded all the things that were not important to me. Checking emails first thing in the morning, no thank you, emails can wait. And then also meditating. So I'm kind of coming into my day with a nice clear mind. And what I've noticed is it's allowed me to be a lot more efficient throughout my day. The third thing that I'm going to say that's also related is that you can't control everything. So things are not always going to work out the way you want. No matter how much you plan, no matter how much all your ducks are in a row, you've done all of these things to set your life up to be the way that you want. guaranteed there's going to be a kink in those plans somewhere, and you just need to be able to relieve yourself of the stress. Give yourself permission to pivot, give yourself permission to make a change, and know that you're going to be okay regardless of whatever comes your way. You are so resilient. The fact that you have gotten this far in your life and your career shows how driven you are, shows how resilient you are. So give yourself permission to let go of the control, because I find a lot of times clients and other lawyers beat themselves up when things don't work out, or when a case doesn't go their way, or when they have a dispute with a colleague, or, you know, when life just doesn't work out the way they want. Just know that everything, you get to decide how you perceive things. So when things don't work out, you can either see that as a failure, or you can see it as an opportunity to learn, and just know that you're available to go with the flow. You are open to be able to take the punches and just roll with them. That right there will help you so much in your careers, because it will allow you to let go of the pressure on yourself that everything has to be right and it has to be done only one way. So you don't need to be everything for everyone. You don't need to do everything for everyone. What you need to do first is take care of yourself. You need to be able to control your own emotions, your own reactions, your own interactions with other people. And then from there, everything else will come. And once you are more sturdy in yourself and you know yourself quite well, you know that certain things cannot shake you. You know that certain things will not bother you regardless. And you don't need to have such tight control of everything. And that's something I struggled with as a person for a very, very long time, is that I felt this, I wanted everything to be perfect. I had my whole life planned out. And when I had conflict in a few law firms and I wasn't feeling very happy, I was so disappointed in myself. I blamed myself so much. Like, where did I go wrong? What did I do that to deserve this? Or, you know, it was kind of going into victim mentality. But I also realized I was so disappointed because I had this expectation of certain things working out a certain way. So when I relieved myself of those expectations and I had the confidence in myself that I know that things will always work out no matter what life throws at me, I was able to actually go forth and be happier, relieve myself of pressure, and also achieve more than I've ever achieved in my life. And I am in the best place I think I have been in my entire career. So even though I am doing so much and I've got my whole coaching practice along with my law practice, I feel happy, I'm not stressed, and I feel like it's kind of the perfect balance for me. So I'll just recap the three things that I just went over that I think are going to help you through your life and through all of your career development. Is one, the importance of slowing down. And like I said, incorporating a meditation practice or something that helps your brain just kind of slow down and stop thinking for once. Number two, just understanding that there's always going to be too much to do on your plate if you allow it to be. So see where you are expending your energy and what you want to prioritize. And number three, that you cannot control everything. So letting go of control and giving yourself the grace to pivot, to fail, to change, and just knowing that your resilience is going to carry you through. So I hope you guys, I went through that so fast. So I hope that was valuable for you. And I hope that you learned a lot. I am open for questions. I wanted to leave some time to discuss this a little bit more and maybe help apply it to your guys' unique situations. If there are some, I would love to go over that with you if you have any questions. Whew.
So that was great. While I let people think of their questions, I'd like to ask you a question. So I know, a lot of the people who are on this call are either thinking about going to law school or they're currently in law school. And law school sort of puts you in an environment where your time is different than when you're in practice. You're sort of just going through class for the most part, and then all of a sudden it gets really busy around finals. But you kind of have this long period where you don't have to be under the gun all the time, with a lot of structure, as opposed to being in the work environment. Then what I found really shocking was when you're thrown into your first year as an associate, now all of a sudden every day is high pressured. You have things that are due every day. You have to turn in something to a partner or a client or something, and you're constantly being scrutinized all day, every day. And that can just be jarring at the beginning. So what advice do you have for law students who are trying to make that transition whenever they're going to go from kind of the school environment to the work environment?
So I think in law, a lot of students are going kind of straight from their academics into law. They've never really had the experience of maybe being in a professional setting. So one is just preparing yourself for that structure. And I think the best way, like you said, is to prepare is start creating some structure in your life, even as a student. So you do have the flexibility to create your own schedule. And sometimes we can get quite carried away with that to give ourselves a break all the time. But if you have a little bit of structure in your life as a student, and there's certain times you have classes, but then there's certain times that you just dedicate to studying or completing your tasks on time, those habits will be carried forward into your working life. So knowing, instead of like procrastinating or waiting for the last minute to hand in that assignment and adding all this pressure, if you do that as a student, you will do that as an associate, and that is a recipe for disaster, because that is the perfect way to fall behind and create more pressure for yourself. So start creating those positive habits for yourself now. Start getting on top of your assignments. Start talking to other lawyers. One of the things that I loved the most was I would just cold email lawyers where they were in a profession that I thought sounded really interesting, and I would ask them for a coffee. Pre-COVID, I could actually meet them in person and make those connections. But I know a lot of people are quite open to speaking with students or prospective lawyers even now. So if you were to email somebody and ask them for a coffee and just pick their brain, it helps you understand what to expect in day-to-day life in that specific profession, in that specific role. So whether that's a litigator, a family lawyer, corporate professional, whatever it is, you'll start knowing what you're heading towards. And that's also a great way to figure out where you want to be yourself and what's important to you. I didn't do that when I was in law school, and I wish I did. I did it later on when I already had become an associate, when I was already feeling under the gun and I was already feeling stressed out. So the better you can prepare yourself to go into that environment, the better you'll position yourself when you are looking for a job or the right fit for yourself.
Awesome. Do we have any questions from the audience? Y'all feel free to chime in and ask away. Don't be shy.
I was going to say, if anybody just wants to share their experience, I'd be happy to kind of even hear what you've been experiencing right now as well.
Yeah. Oh, I see a question in the chat box. How do you determine the point where more money has diminishing returns?
That is a great question. I think it's going to be personal for everybody, because how much money is enough money? Is it when you hit a 6K salary? Is it when you hit, 150,000, 200,000, 250,000? I recently had a lawyer tell me that she'll be happy when she makes 250. But when is that associated with? So think about the lifestyle that you're living at each of those junctures. There's no magic number at which it's going to be a diminishing return, but you'll know with your energy, is more money worth this? I know people that are, junior, and they're making $50,000 or $60,000, and it's already not worth it. It's already not worth all of their time. And we tend to think that I just need to give up a few years of my life and hustle, and then I'll make it to the top, and that will be, that's when I'll have balance. Being on the other side of that, all of my clients are on the other side of that. They realize that it's never enough, because you start getting comfortable with that lifestyle at the 100K mark, then the 150 mark, and it's always just more, more, more. So doing some of these exercises that we've talked about and understanding what is important to yourself and at what level you are able to cut yourself off and say, you know what, I need my evenings, I need my weekends. So at 5 o'clock, whatever salary I'm making, as long as it lets me go home at 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever works for you, I think it's more about that balance And sometimes you understand that when you're already in a profession, but sometimes if you already have that knowledge, you can look for jobs that allow you to have that type of lifestyle. So it's really just balancing the money with the life that you want. I
Yeah.
don't know if that answers your question, Emily. I hope so.
On that note, I think what's interesting is I was just talking to one of my pre-law students about this the other day, is that those numbers sort of just seem like monopoly money at some point, when you're just starting out, because you don't really understand the value of money. Because when I was in college, I was on a full scholarship, so I didn't have tuition to pay. I had to pay rent. I had just, a few things that I needed to purchase in my life, car insurance, that type of thing. But I could live solidly on $2,000 a month. It wasn't
Yeah.
so like this idea of making $150,000 a year was just bonkers to me. I was like, how could that not be enough for someone? But I think one of the exercises that I go through with our students is that I break down what my life looked like as a first year associate, and I show them what were all of my bills and how much was I making, and at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, what was left. And it wasn't all that much. And and I got out of school in 2013 when the market was picking up a little bit. And then there was just a round of raises in the associate ranks, so the average first year associate pay went up, but also the first year associate pay at Big Law went up. And so that kind of drove the rest of the market up a little bit. And so I came out of law school making about $130,000 in Washington, D.C. So it was pretty expensive market. It was a lot of money for rent and food, and cost of living was just super expensive. So, I found myself somehow still feeling like I was living paycheck to paycheck, making $130,000, which was just bonkers to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever think that I was going to need that much money. But then after making $130,000 and then getting raises several times, I started to realize, yeah, every incremental raise I got didn't necessarily equate to more happiness for me. In fact, when Big Law went up to 190 for first years, they raised up a lot of their billable hour requirements. So, now
Yeah.
instead of billing 1,800 hours a year or 1,900 hours a year, now everybody had to bill 20 or 2,000 or 2,100. And so you were trading in more of your time in your life in order to get this larger salary that you might not have even asked for. It was just the market went up and that's what it commanded. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Sorry.
think
I
about
was going to say on that point, I think it's really important what you brought up is more money won't always equate more happiness. So there is a concept called the hedonic treadmill. And what that means is that you are always chasing the next level of happiness. So wherever you reach, you're no longer happy. So it's this concept of never being satisfied. So if you get to this, like when you're in law school, you're like, oh, as soon as I become an associate, I'll be happy. Then you become an associate, then you adjust to that so quickly that then now it's like, well, as soon as I hit the 3-year mark or I make this salary range, I'll be happy. Well, as soon as I can buy my own place, I'll be happy. And then it's always the next level. So you're always one step behind happiness. And that's the whole concept, is that you are you adapt to where you are. So hedonic adaptation or hedonic treadmill, it's you adapt to the level that you're at and you always come to your baseline. So if your baseline is dependent on something outside of yourself, you're always just going to be coming right back to that baseline of happiness. So if you're always 50% happy, regardless of how much more money comes into your world, you'll still stay at that 50%. And that's where it becomes more important to align your career and outside world with what really matters to you as a person and your own values and the lifestyle that you want. Those are the things that will elevate that level of happiness, regardless of what salary you're at, as long as your basic needs are being met.
Yeah, I mean, I would task students to think about, how much money are you spending now as a student, and what makes you happy, and really, is what are you missing monetarily that needs to make you happy? Because I don't think that there's exact answer for that. You can't just say like, oh, if somebody were to walk up and hand me $50,000 today, that would make me happy. Like that's not, I think it's really, what does that money enable you to do? What does that money enable you to gain in your life, whether you like to travel or whether you want to be able to spend it on your family or whether you want to be able to, do different things in your life. What does that money enable you to do? And think about, what are all of the buckets of happiness in your life? What are the things that you want for yourself in not just your career, but in your personal life? Do you want to be able to have time to spend with family members, friends, work out, do all the other things in your life that make you happy? And, at what point do you need to trade off money for time? Do I need to make a little bit less money so that I can have a job that allows me to have time to do all these things? Or, am I still at the level where I still feel like, no, I could trade off more of my time for that money?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's going to be personal preference for everybody, dependent on their own needs and what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Sure.
So as someone who is, still an undergrad and wants to go to law school, how am I supposed to figure out what kind of law I want to go into? And like, by when do you suggest that, I kind of have a solid idea of that?
Yeah, Nav, you want to take that one?
Sure. So you don't always figure it out right away. I think we all have ideas of what we want to do. Law school itself will help with you. I think first year you do more of a variety of, depending on where you go, but a variety of areas of law, and it helps you understand what you enjoy and what kind of things I think you more resonate with. So that could be maybe more litigation. For me, I was in law school. I was like, okay, definitely don't want to do criminal. Like, I just don't like any of these cases. I don't like what it stands for. So I had ruled out criminal, and sometimes it is a process of elimination. I'm from Canada, so I'm not really sure how it works down in the States, but for us, we do have a little bit more wiggle room, and we don't need to commit to either being a solicitor or a litigator. Once you're a lawyer, and you can work in different areas. So it gives you this movement that you can try out different areas. The other thing is when you're articling, especially if you're articling in big law or any kind of established law firm. You guys might not have articles, do you?
We don't.
About to say, what is articling?
Oh, it's like internship. So it's like your first year of a lawyer, you're still a student before you write the bar. So if you're doing internships or summers, they're usually set up to be able to bounce around in different areas of practice so you can get a feel for it. My biggest suggestion, even prior to that, is what I suggested in the talk, was to get in touch with different types of lawyers. If you are reaching out and saying, I want to hear more about your practice and litigation, or I want to hear more about your, family law practice or criminal practice, information interviews for me were everything. Prior to actually becoming an associate, I did informational interviews, and people were so willing to share what their life was like, in a very candid way, that it helped me understand if that was the type of work I wanted to do, if those were the types of clients I wanted to work with, or if those were the types of results that I wanted to deliver for my clients. So that for me is always the number one suggestion, is talk to real life people, and they'll give you the real life experiences.
I completely 100% agree with what Nav said. Do informational interviews, try to find lawyers on LinkedIn or through events like this that are doing things that you think you want to do, and ask them, hey, can I have 30 minutes of your time to talk to you a little bit about your career path and how did you become you? And, most lawyers are more than willing to give you just that 30 minutes to talk about their practice area and their own path. I mean, people love talking about themselves. So take advantage of that. But if you are totally unaware of what career paths are even out there, that was me, by the way. When I started doing this, I started thinking about law school really late in the game. So I was already out of college, working, didn't have time to explore very much before I went into law school. And so I started, trying to research different practice areas. There's a website, Chambers Associate has practice area guides that at least give you a broad overview of kind of the major practice areas. Ria, so if you want to go and start reading about some of those practice areas, if any of those sound interesting to you, then what I would do is go to LinkedIn, search for that practice area in the search bar, and you can filter it down to people, and you can find lawyers that are practicing in that practice area. And then you can reach out to them for informational interviews. And I also would filter it out to your university alumni, because alumni are usually more likely to talk to you than other people. But if you don't have alumni, that's totally fine. You can also reach out to just anybody who's working in those practice areas. These large law firms, they have websites where you can narrow by practice area and see all the people that are practicing in those practice areas. So if you think that you're interested in mergers and acquisitions or bankruptcy or real estate, I would just go to one of those large law firm websites, find people working in those areas and email them and just ask them for an informational interview. I know that can be really, really scary for a lot of college students. I mean, it was scary for me as a working professional, but we also have a video. Actually, we had a career coach come in and talk about how to conduct informational interviews. So I'll drop the link for that video into the chat box if you want to go check that out, Ria.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's just a lot of areas of law, like they sound cool, but I think that when practicing them versus hearing about them is a much different thing. So I think it's like hard to figure out like where my strengths are and like what I would be the happiest doing, I guess, because that's what I want to be. I want to be a lawyer and I want to be successful, but I also want to be happy in what I do. So I think that's just the biggest part.
Definitely, take some personality assessments to find out more about what your strengths are. And then as you're talking to these lawyers in those informational interviews, try to see, if those strengths and those skill sets align with their type of practice area. You can ask them that in those informational interviews. What sort of skill sets do you need to be good at this particular practice of law, and learn more about what the day-to-day looks like and see if you would be naturally aligned to those things. I mean, I know it's hard without actually being able to practice it. So my other suggestion is to find these, you can find like online boot camps or online programs where you can learn more like high level overviews of law. So for example, Inside Sherpa is a website that has like online courses, and you can take free online courses in different areas of law. So some of the major law firms have virtual experience courses on those platforms. And so by just starting to dabble in some of those, it'll give you a sense of what their practice is really like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? What other questions do y'all have for now?
I think we've got a few in the chat box.
Okay, great. You want to?
So, Alexandra, so what advice do you have for students pursuing public interest, feeling alienated amongst larger groups? I'm not sure what you mean by you're feeling alienated. Is it that you are not pursuing big law and everybody else around you is? Alexandra, do you want to unmute if you can?
Yes, give me 1 second. Hi. Yeah, just public interest law is definitely the road less traveled. So when the majority of, people are pursuing big law and big money, I think it's easy to feel, less sure of your decision when you're pursuing public interest law, which usually in terms of money pays much less. So yeah, along those lines, if that.
Yeah, so I would say that you don't need to justify your decision to anybody but yourself. So as long as this is something that you have discovered is aligned with you and it's going to give you that fulfillment that you want out of your career, your reasons for going to law school, your reasons for choosing this path, as long as you can stay grounded in those, then it really doesn't matter if other people are pursuing big law, because what you'll find is that, people will make various changes throughout their careers. So they might be pursuing big law now, they might go down a different path in the future. And I guess that's really, don't concern yourself with what the general masses want to do, and really staying sure of yourself and the things that are important to you is what's going to help you become a great lawyer, especially in this sector where we need people with more heart and passion. And through that, you'll get your fulfillment. And if you are aligned with that, the money will come as well. It might not be as big as as some of the big law firms, but for you, you're not just after the money. It seems like you're after something a lot deeper. So I would say I would even just write down all of my reasons for wanting to do that and what you wish to get out of it. One of the things I did when I was working in a firm that wasn't quite aligned with me, I actually pursued doing volunteer work. So I sit on a board for a women's center where I get my fulfillment, and it takes up a lot of time and it's not paid, but I know my reasons for wanting to do that work, and it goes way beyond money. The amount of people I get to help and the service that we provide, to me, is a lot more fulfilling, and that keeps me quite grounded in everything else I do.
Thank you.
No problem. What else? We've got Catherine. Okay, I just read this question, Catherine, that you are almost wanting stress. I can probably coach you for like 5 hours on that comment, but I am very curious to know what you associate stress with and why you would want to be actively stressed out. I'm just curious to know about that statement. So if you're available to unmute, that would be great. Otherwise, I can just give you my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It just kind of worries me that like when people ask like what would make you happy and stuff, I just kind of like that feeling of being slightly overwhelmed more than like taking a vacation or anything. And that concerns me because I feel like it's not healthy. And I feel like I would rather not in 5 years like hit a huge wall and burn out and have a huge like breakdown. But it's how I like right now how I perceive like being happy or anything is having like being slightly overwhelmed and having a little too much to do.
And what does overwhelm mean to you? What does that get for you?
I don't know. It makes me feel like a buzz, excited. I feel like when there's not enough to do, part of it is I don't feel productive, which I think is also like a concerning thing. I feel like this is something people talk about, like when someone feels the need to always be productive and always do more, like that leads to burnout and everything. I don't know. I feel bored if I'm not doing too much.
Okay, so you're associating being overwhelmed or having too much on your plate with being excited and productive.
Yeah.
So I think productivity and stress are two different things. You also mentioned here that you haven't had the experience of working too much or having intense busyness, but somehow you think you want that. So I think once you experience it, you might change how you feel about it, because there is a healthy balance of being productive and accomplishing things and being having a healthy amount of busyness in your schedule, and then going over that line into overwhelm, into burnout. There's a reason why burnout is now a part of the World Health Organization. It's sorry, I don't even know how they categorize it, but anyways, it's recognized by them as being a mental health issue because it is so common in our society. So there is definitely a line that you can pass that will create this sense that you no longer have control over your the tasks that you need to do. So you get from wanting to accomplish a lot to not even having the capacity to be able to accomplish all the things on your plate. And I think that is the line, and that is when you can lead to burnout and overwhelm. But being busy and having a lot on your plate and accomplishing things is not unhealthy. A lot of people are driven by this sense of high accomplishment, and that's, I think, a lot of lawyers and high achievers are in that boat. But I think there's something really that could be used in a very healthy way to drive yourself to achieve more if you're ambitious, which it sounds like you are. But do be mindful of taking care of yourself and having the time to be able to nurture what you need so you have the energy to go and do all these tasks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. One other thing, just to add on with that, like what you were talking about with the treadmill thing, how you don't feel like you're ever actually doing enough. I feel like that really resonates with me. But do you have any advice for any tangible advice with that other than just like, don't think like that?
Yeah. that is such a common phenomenon. Like so many of us feel that way. So don't feel like you're alone in that feeling. What my advice would be is to really think about what it is that you need, the things that bring you fulfillment. Like the last person said, going into public law would make her feel more fulfilled. But what are the things that are in your control in your life that you're able to implement every single day, every week, every month into your life that are going to bring you fulfillment, regardless of what the external circumstances are. So if you know that you are happy, in, I don't know, your relationship, or you're happy doing yoga 5 times a day, and those things are bringing you a level of fulfillment, that your baseline will increase in accordance with what you are feeding yourself. Do you know what I mean? So your baseline of happiness is going to become higher if you are always nurturing what you need that's internal to yourself, things that you can control, instead of just being the 6-figure salary, the multi 6-figure salary, 7 figures, or whatever it is. So it's really understanding that that sense of success has to be aligned with something more internal to you rather than always being out of reach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, who else has questions? We've got a few more minutes. Someone else was offered somebody else opportunity to practice. Okay, I think that was an answer to Ria's question. Stress makes time, and yeah, no, it's definitely pressure.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. I just want to say thank you. I don't have a question myself. I'm also a Canadian lawyer.
Hey.
I really thought your presentation was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yay for Canadian lawyers. Okay, is there anybody else? Nope, going once, going twice.
I don't think so. Oh, wait, one more. Okay, yeah, I think we're good on questions. So thank you so much for your time today, Nav, and taking time out of your busy day to come share your wisdom with us. So I will be posting the recording on YouTube whenever we get it cut, and we have another meetup on Thursday, also in the mental health and wellness realm. So Ariella Coleman will be coming to talk to you guys about her journey and her strategies for managing stress and balancing your life. And so if you're interested in this topic, definitely come and check that out. And then next week we will be taking a break, and I think we probably won't be having any more meetups until the new year. So so come and hang out with us on Thursday. We will have our virtual happy hour next Friday. So if you want to come and meet people and be able to network with other professionals, definitely catch our last virtual happy hour of the year. And hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and hope to see you on Thursday. So thanks so much, Nav.